board heard presentations from HSP Resources and U.S. Lime Corporation regarding the property that the county intends to surplus in Herlong. They directed that this item be re-agendized this morning for consideration of perhaps selecting one or more of the proponents and directing staff to work.
Good. With that, the board wishing to comment first?
I'd like to open it up to the public first.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will take public comment on this at this time. And then sit in the back. Come in, pardon me, state your name.
My name is Felix Flores. I'm from Herlong, California. I'm here to support this RFP, and I support HSP Resource. And the reason is the presentation itself. They have experience in dealing with this type of project, which I did a little research on them. The second one is what they're going to give back to the community, which you've already stated. They gave back the books. They've given cheap rental space both to the county and the One Stop. The other one is the value that would be asset on the building is approximately $136,000. Plus, they're going to give you $25,000. Plus, they're going to pay for whatever the cost, the closing cost, to transfer this building back to the county. Originally, as we all know, there was a mistake on the first RFP. But this is a win situation not only for the county, but for the Herlong community. So I'd really like you to see that there is a larger number than that physical number that they show. The other one is that's really important about this, and I'd like to get into it really quick, is the new Defense Authorization Bill of 2013, which has been coming up and coming up. I have been fortunate enough to go to Monterey a few years back to see originally how the Presidio did it in cooperation with Monterey. And it really works well. Now this has been authorized by Congress. We have an opportunity to make a difference in Lassen County and Southern Lassen County. What we need to do, so we're all on the same page and we all understand each other, I encourage the board to send a supervisor, somebody from planning, and regular staff, Egan's office. The Herlong Water District, we are sending 3 of our board because this is a big opportunity for the county. It's an opportunity for the local business because if you get in a partnership, whether it's public or private, it's going to be a win-win situation for everybody. Through taxes, improving the quality of life, improving our education, everything that we've been talking about for 5 years. I mean, we really got to jump on this, think out of the box, and move this as fast as possible. The other question is about, Mr. Egan brought up about, he asked the base commander at negotiation. Well, I worked for the government for 30 years. Half that, I was vice president of a 12,000-man union. I can tell you right now, if you ask the Army something that they're negotiating with, until it's completed and approved by the chain of command, you're not going to get an answer. They'll be vague, but they are not going to give you a direct answer. So all this, is it happening or isn't happening, accusing it does. Trust me, there's talk, but they're not going to give you a direct answer until those negotiations are complete. So, as Tom said, he was there. Trust me, as long as I worked for DOD, this is what you're going to see until there's a done deal, and then they'll make a press release saying this is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Good next. Better come up in the back and state your name, sir.
My name is JJ Jimenez. I'm a local contractor. I just wanted to speak in favor of this RFP, and especially was it HSP, I believe, correct? I did a little bit of research on Mr. Hayes that gave the presentation last week, this past week after that. And I believe he's, from what I've seen, I actually talked to him a little bit after the meeting. He seems like an honest man, and I believe that he will work with this community and work with the county in a good way to produce, like Alex was saying, this will produce jobs in our community. This could produce jobs for me and the 7 people that I employ. And I believe it can produce jobs for other contractors, and not just contractors. As this whole thing rolls along, it will produce income for the county, like you talked about in taxways and that sort of thing. So I would just like to say I am for it, because I think we need a little bit more, a little bit bigger things going on. It's an opportunity for the county, I believe, to grow that Hurlong area a little bit and give a little support. I mean, you drive through there now, it's a little bit run down, and I think it's a good community with good people, and I think it needs some extra help. Thank you.
John Everett, I'm from Hurlong, California. And Mr. Pyle, I told you I wouldn't be back unless I thought it was important. I've seen you for a while, but I feel that this is important. And I also agree with the last two on Mr. Hayes and company. We need some positive growth in the whole county, and we need some positive growth in the Hurlong area. I also am concerned about the one-stop. We have a very good facility there, and I'm worried about the lack of maybe it going away if the county comes back and doesn't have the money for it or whatever. I really stress that we need this project down there, and it's been a very good one. It's well ran, and it really helps literally hundreds of people in the South County, as you guys like to call us. And it's very important that we keep that going for the community, and we need positive growth. And just to reiterate, like the last two said, the county will prosper from the jobs and the taxes and stuff. And I don't care if the thing was given to these people, you know, on the bid. The money that's going out to buy that property is not important at all to me personally. That money could be free. It's a matter of if they get it and they take care of it and we have business. We haven't had anything go on out there on any of that property for years. And with the county now, and if they have a chance to get rid of it, we have a chance of growth in that pattern. I believe it's very important for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barbara Healy, and I am very much in favor of the company coming into Hurlong. They need to do something out there. It's a good opportunity for you to do something with that land. It's been sitting there. But I do have a lot of concerns about their drones that they make. There's a lot of civil rights violations when the drones leave the area that they're not supposed to be in. So I don't have a problem. If they want to make drones and test them in this area right here, and their little cameras never face the surrounding areas to violate anyone else's rights, I'm all for it. But even our Assemblyman, Tim Donnelly, stated, why do we have American companies manufacturing things that could be used to spy on Americans? This was in the Record Searchlight on April 21st, 2013. So I think that the company coming here, what they want to do is great. Absolutely. Manufacture the drones. Test them. But keep them in that one area. There has to be a lot of restrictions and guidelines and huge penalties for leaving that area. They can't fly a drone over to Reno. They can drive it there and then fly it in the area that they're allowed in. They can't fly a drone over to Susanville or to Redding because you're crossing people's private property and you're violating their rights. People have a right to privacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask Barbara a question?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
bet.
Is there a restriction, Barbara, about drones flying in air space around air flight pattern?
As far as I'm aware, there are restrictions with the airlines, like the base there would have restrictions, but there hasn't been anything written saying that, okay, you cannot fly over I-5 freeway and monitor the people on the freeway. It's a free-for-all. Someone can use a drone and look in your windows at your house. Okay? That's how serious this is. And it's okay. But if they go up to the window and they're looking in there, they're keeping Tom.
You know, I think there's legislation coming out now. Right.
But that's something that you guys need to be aware of, because if you allow them to come in and they have a free-for-all, where they can just fly their drones everywhere, you're going to be hearing back from your constituents, not very happy.
No, I agree, but I mean, I think that's up to the federal aviation, is what I'm seeing on the legislation.
But you could also place restrictions on them. You have the authority to place restrictions on them in your county.
When we get there,
Okay.
we'll take that top subject up.
Well, just something I wanted you guys to be aware of. There's a lot of debate over the drones. I mean, even San Francisco banned them. And they're very liberal. And they didn't want drones in San Francisco. Seattle didn't want them either. So, that's the only part of the company I have a problem with. Everything else, let's do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next? See none? Somebody else? Oh, Mr. Hanson in the back. Thank you. Good to see you back in the boardroom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jack Hansen. I reside at 490-800 Horse Lake Road, Susanville, actually outside of Susanville. Just a couple of quick comments. I'm also in favor of industrial development on this property. Obviously, we have all been looking at it for quite a while. I think it's probably a diamond in the rough for Lassen County. And as far as the price of the property, as far as I'm concerned, I would agree with the statement that John made. You can give the property away. I mean, you're virtually doing it anyway. That's certainly recognized. The only thing that I would suggest, two things if I could. Humbly, I'd suggest that you reconsider all the acreage going to the property, going up for bid. I would wonder with the proposed projects, how many acres are actually required. And I think from a taxpayer standpoint, I'd like to see you retain ownership on some of the acreage. And secondly, you might want to consider a timeline that if something doesn't happen out there, and this has been a problem we've had in Lassen County over the years, we have projects that are proposed out there, they all sound good on paper, we never quite get around to them. You might want to see if you could craft into the contract a timeline to have some of the property or all the property revert back to the county if there was no performance. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we went back to the board. There's questions from the board. Tom?
I just have a comment. That one stop is very critical to Herlong. If it goes away, like you said, Bob, the center of our community goes away. And it's taken some pretty good hits. That, in the BRAC, in the 1990s BRAC, Lassen County lost 18% of its job force, which has not been utilized, followed up with 200 job losses in the mill. We have not replaced those. We have not made the right maneuvers to do that. I believe we have the right master developer right now to take us to maybe to reclaim some of those jobs. Future growth is important with what's going on in Reno. If you guys heard Bob Marshall say that Reno's expecting 51,000 new jobs in the next 2 or 3 years. The one question that Bob asked them is, are you through your foreclosures? And they were. So, maybe it's a hope. Maybe we can get some growth coming this way. I just see this as a domino. We start growth at that base there. Maybe we can get it coming this way.
I just think that, we've had that, county's had this property for how long? you know, and then we haven't done anything out there, and it's been a kind of disservice to that whole community. I believe when you read the BRAC and when you go through a BRAC, the county's just supposed to be a conduit to get into private business. That's my comment.
Barry, you got a comment?
I got several, you know, it's been brought up, you know, that the one-stop out there is essential to the community Furlong. And it is, and that was one of the reasons why, you know, when this whole thing come up over a year ago, that I pushed for the referee clause. And as a board, they decided not to do that, so it wasn't essential now. I don't know what's so essential about it right now if it wasn't essential back at the time. As far as the valuation of it goes, you know, everybody's, I'm going to throw a different spin on it. Everybody's kind of looking at it as a commercial industrial thing. If you look at it from a grazing side of things, granted the ground out there isn't very productive, so if you limit it to 100 acres to graze one cow out there, I did a little math. 3,400 acres divided by 100 acres of cow, that puts you 34 cows. 34 cows at $25 a month is testimony we heard today from the Ag Commission as well as other board members, and that valuation I put on was $25 a month. $850 a month. She grazed out there for 5 months. $850 times 5 months. That's $4,200 a year, $4,250 a year. If you go on a long term, 30-year loan, you just for 25 years, $4,250 for 25 years, that's $106,000 to let that property to somebody that grazes. And today we're looking at, you know, possibly just giving away for $35,000 or $25,000 plus a building, but nobody wanted to do it. So, nobody wanted to fight for it, you know, over a year ago. Anyway, those are my two things, you know, and the other thing, you know, is we have two very unique, different, and highly potential proposals coming up. And this all, you know, I suggest, you know, we break this up to let other people, you know, look at participating in this, you know, rather than just one whole bidder. And that was shot down, so now here we are at another crossroads and potential dilemma. So anyway, just some more food for thought to think about as we move forward.
Just a comment on the grazing area, and the problem is there's no fencing out there, and it costs, I don't know how many, 10, 20, 30, 40 more times the fencing. That would be a big cost. People could graze it without the fence it. So your improvement to make it available to graze would be extremely high. Way more than you ever get back to see.
Have you been out there, Aaron?
No, I haven't been out to the airport field. No.
Okay, Jim?
Cut it in half at 200 acres, and that's still $50,000.
Go ahead.
You got me off guard. Okay, my belief is the government's held this property way too long. It's time to turn it over to the private sector. And we put out a bid, which was low cost or through, and I wouldn't want to have to change that bid today. So I think it's our responsibility. Once the bid's out, the bid can come, turn it over to the bidder and let the private sector hopefully do the right thing. We have a motion to
I move that we not accept any of the proposed offers, and we go back to RFP and resubmit it again, maybe break it up and do it a little different.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We got a motion and a second. More discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, under discussion, I would like to say that I think the RFP has a number of defects in it. There's some concerns that were raised last fall when the motion was passed, but not by unanimous vote. I voted no on the RFP because of perceived defects in there. It does not have a minimum bid requirement. I think we talk about the value of the land, and I'm not into grazing, so I can't relate to the figures that Mr. Albaugh has presented there, but $10 an acre, I think is an extremely low value on that particular property, and I think the board's open for criticism. We obviously have a building that's been offered back to us when it was given to the parties by mistake, and if it was that valuable of a building to have, the county should have exercised the referee clause, or more importantly, the person who acquired it should have just given it back to the community for that. I do appreciate the fact that he has been committed to maintaining the building for the community, and he should be given credit for that. The value of that building, though, I think is a question of dispute. Whoever you talk to, you'll get a different value on it. So I think that that in itself, I think, undermines the credibility of the whole RFP response. So I think that we're not interested in buildings, we're interested in what the dollar amount is. And I think whatever dollar amounts we gain from the disposal of land use property should be put back into developing a proper ADA compliant facility for the community. So the idea that by voting against awarding this property under the RFP is a vote against having facilities out there as the heart of the community, I think is not appreciated by some, because I think that we as a county have a commitment there, we have a responsibility there, and we need to discharge that. I think that the RFP is also defective. We've learned in the process because of the planning requirements and how that's going to be paid for and accomplished for the utilization of that property. I think it needs to be resolved and incorporated as part of the RFP. If indeed we're going to require the successful bidder to participate in that, you can't go back and revise the RFP now and say, okay, you've got to contribute and help pay for that. That's a county expense, but one and not less, we have a responsibility. So just the cost of administering the transfer of these documents are going to far exceed what we're going to gain in terms of the value of either the cash bids and or the property that would be exchanged for it. So in order to take that property back, in order to make it be ADA compliant, we're going to spend tens, if not into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that becomes part of the liability that we inherit there. We just seem to always make the wrong decision on the pretext that we're doing something for the public interest. I don't think the public interest is served by this RFP, the process, and the defects. And if the action is taken by this board to award that, I think it further aggravates what I think is the schizophrenic nature. I mean, we accepted this property from the Army not for the purpose of maintaining it for 10 years. In fact, that's been a debate, and as one board member, I've been extremely critical over the last 10 years over the idea that county staff and the board and county administration held in the past, not the current people, I don't want to indict them, but in the past, that had this fancy idea that we were going to be property managers and we're going to be Donald Trump and we're going to create all this activity. You know, and those of us who listened to it then, you know, had the same attitude we have today about their lack of performance. I'm 100% in favor of transferring the property to the private sector. Should have been done 10 years ago, but we need to do it in a right fashion. And I could say that what I watched and listened to and have read over the last few months as it relates to this RFP does just the opposite of that. I don't think the public interest is being served, so I will be voting no on awarding any sort of RFP to a bidder, and I think that all bids should be rejected. And that's why I support this motion.
Anybody else?
Well, yeah, I'm fully in favor of awarding the property today. We've been at this for too long, and staff put together this RFP, and they were satisfied with it, so I'm satisfied with it. We were told that it was a good document, and I want to make a motion today to...
You have a motion on the floor.
We've got a motion on the second on the floor.
Well,
Jeff?
why are we going to prolong this? I mean, you talked about being efficient, and, you know, I'm new, but, I mean, this has been going on for over a decade, and we haven't, staff's wasted how much time, how much money on making an RFP, and all of a sudden the RFP is flawed? That's just my question.
It's not flawed today, it was flawed when it was adopted, and the RFP the year before that with the other properties was equally flawed, and we have been living with the consequences of doing it wrong. And I think it's time that we do it right, and I think that's...
How many times are we going to have write up an RFP because everyone seems wrong?
Yeah, we haven't been very successful at getting it done.
Well, on the board house, you can help us get it right. Because
Yeah, we're glad
last
you
RFP,
corrected it.
it wasn't a unanimous decision. So where are we?
We're gonna vote here in a minute, but let me say a couple of things. This went out to public bid. Anybody had the right to bid on it. Those that did, those that didn't. I don't care if the public criticizes me for accepting this bid. Because the person criticizing me will have had the opportunity to have made that bid, and they didn't. Everybody had the same opportunity. So, I mean, I don't like the idea that, you know, someone's going to criticize us for a public bid, that they had every right to make a bid. And they didn't do it, so they're bitching about it because they don't like it over now. Well, that's their tough luck for not bidding on it.
Well, and at the same time too, Bob, the public is also putting it in our hands to give it to the best person. And
That is correct.
we also reserve the right to refuse any and all bids.
We can do that if we feel none of the bids are acceptable. All right? With all due respect, I disagree with you, and you too, Jim. I think we got, I think it's a good RFP to say it's RFP.
Let's vote on this.
Well,
Wait a minute. I got the floor right now, I'm speaking, and
you've done that like
okay, you can, but that's how I see it, and for any planning that have to be done, the airport land use plan, I sit on the commission, I come to this board and ask for the money to do this plan as a commission, or department head, Maury Anderson, said we have to have a plan, and I brought it to the board, and the board voted it down. That's why we do not have a plan. And that plan is not for any one particular person. It is for anybody within the area that needs a go by the airport land use plan. And I agree with Tom, the community center. I would hate to lose the community center in Westwood. It's very important to that community. Extremely important. And I don't know if this is it's not my district. It was Jack Hansen's district. I don't know. It was very important to Jack when he had it, and Tom said it's important to him. You know, I don't know, but I'll take their word for it. But they don't know how important the Westwood Center is to Westwood. None of you do. I do. So anyhow, I will not be supporting this motion. Jim?
You know, I just want to respond. I'm more than willing to vote for an RFP if it's going to mean that it's not going to cost the county directly out of its pocket as a result of the RFP. That's what we're assured. If you can assure me today that by awarding this contract or this bid, that it's not going to cost the county anything from that point forward dealing with it. So, I mean, to me, the last two RFPs have basically led to exorbitant costs being added to. We played tiddlywinks watching staff do their thing over the last 10 years with that property out there, and it's cost the county between $750,000 and $1 million. And those of us on the board sat there, some of us objected to it, and we were taken to task and criticized for questioning the integrity of staff and the community interest groups that were trying to make something good out of it. And the thing is it winds up costing us. So it doesn't matter who we award it to. In the end result, it's going to cost the county general fund that much more money trying to make the thing work because of the other requirements there. And that's where, if you're going to dispose of the public property, it should at least be cost neutral. I mean, I don't care about making a dime. It should at least be cost neutral. And if you could provide that kind of assurance, then fine. It would be a worthwhile thing for the public interest. But why should the county general fund always take it in the net because we're pandering to our political groups? And that to me, I think, is what really deserves the public in this process. And that's the reason why I'm out of sorts on it. And it has nothing to do with the individual parties today. It has to do, I think, is the dysfunctional activity of government that we have. And I didn't run to be on this board to be part of a dysfunctional government. I want it to work and work right the first time and do it right, in a right way. And that hasn't been achieved.
Liar. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The airport land use plan was needed long before this issue came up. It did not come up because of this issue. It was an issue this county's had for 10, 20, 30, 40 years that they have never taken up and taken care of. So it's the responsibility of the county, and the county never took care of it. Jeff, do you have a comment?
No, I just call for question on the vote.
Well, fine.
But I got it bored.
No, you got gavel.
You got gavel. That's better.
You're an assistant at
That's
time.
better to be gavel.
When the chairman's talking, you don't interrupt. Okay, Mr. Hagan.
Sure, I just have one thing to point out, just for the record, we have not done an appraisal on this property since whenever it was taken over, about 3 years ago. We do have the assessor and his staff in the audience, and they may or may not wish to comment on what they think the value of the property is.
He says one comment. Shaking his head no.
I got no comment, no. I haven't done any research yet.
Okay, we're gonna vote. Madam Clerk, would you pull the board?
What are we voting on right now?
Yeah, leave the motion back.
Reject all.
To reject all.
Moment, please, for the clerk to collect herself. This needs to be done precisely.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is to reject all bids. Supervisor Chapman.
Aye.
Supervisor Alba.
Aye.
Supervisor Hempel.
No.
Supervisor Hammond.
Nope.
Supervisor Tyler.
I love it when this happens. No. Okay, that motion failed. I would ask for the motion.
I make a motion that we authorize staff to enter into negotiations to transfer the property to HSP because of
HSP resource.
HSP resources.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Here.
Yeah, I mean, why are we going with the cheapest bid here? Here again, you're going with the, it's terrible. I mean, the community center was so important a year ago, why didn't we fight to get back a year ago?
It was pretty important, Aaron. Somebody lost
can't
their job
believe
over
this.
the value of that
I
building.
know, and we up here as a board did not fight to get the one-stop back. We did nothing. I was the only one to raise my hand.
Mr. Alba,
Everybody else said, oh, it's okay. let's
I don't
vote.
believe this.
What about it later? Was this the big plan?
I don't know. I'm not going to keep using the excuse new.
And then we're going to take the
But we're getting the building back, which is important. to the
Yeah, and now
community.
we have to spend $150,000 on the building to get us the.
150. Have you been to that? What's the? Is there a cost? Has there ever been a?
Excuse me, Tom, don't say where I've been.
Has there ever
been my partner?
Has there ever been a cost estimate on that building to make it ADA compliant?
Not that I'm aware
I mean,
of.
keep getting this brought up. I mean, I've been out there. I don't
No,
think-
there has not.
You know,
Okay, we're not gonna argue. Jim
It's an
said.
identified issue, but
It's
no
an
cost
identified
is
issue.
attributed to that.
Okay.
I just want to say, obviously, I'm not in favor of awarding the bid, but if the board is interested in awarding the bid of the two bidders that was there, I would have to say, not because of the building being added to it. I think it has nothing to do with the money, because the money value that was offered by both bidders, as far as I'm concerned, is non-consequential. As far as that is the question as to what you can do with the property, what at least their proposal in terms of they want to say. I think that the HSP proposal was far superior to the proposal from U.S. Mines in terms of the envisioned potential. I guess the question really comes down to is whether, I've sat here long enough and have had listened to so many pie-in-the-sky proposals from developing windmill and geothermal and you name it, I mean, all across the valley, from pig farms to whatever, and they very rarely ever come to fruition. I would hope that at least if we're going to be paying the price by disposing of this property, at least the right company would be given the opportunity to try to make it. And I would say that the proposal that Mr. Hayes made was far superior to the other one. So I would encourage the majority of the board that plans on making this, that they choose at least the right company.
I agree. County Clerk, would you pull the board?
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman,
Mr. Hagan, that's first.
before, just for clarification on the motion, I think it'd probably be appropriate to direct someone, probably me, to draft, meaning council to draft transfer agreement and other documents and bring it back to this board for approval at a future date.
Is that the motion?
yeah, that's fine.
Second, agreed.
You might also want to direct Mr. Egan if he can sneak in the property descriptions for the old courthouse in there, mistakenly.
Let's back it up. Let's make sure that we're precise in what our motion is, so everyone knows.
That way, HSP can be the landlords or the assessor's office.
I was just going to comment, I'm sure that they would be happy to have that.
Careful, your car is going to run over your dog.
Okay.
Okay,
authorize staff to enter into negotiations to transfer property to HSP Resources.
I would, if that's consistent with the proposal submitted.
Is that adopted as the motion? Mr. Move it.
That's how I want my motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And is that how it's seconded?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now I can vote.
Okay, Supervisor Chapman.
Well, because of the known defects in the RFP in my opposition there, I'm going to vote no on this motion.
Supervisor Alba.
No.
Supervisor Campbell.
Yay.
Supervisor Hammond.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle.
I'm not gonna vote. I vote aye. Okay.